when action is the enemy, the paradox that breaks modern life. Imagine this: you're in a room with no distractions, no phone, no noise, no tasks, no pressure. Just you. Most of us say we want peace, but the moment we have it, our mind rebels. We reach for stimulation. We start planning, fixing, building, searching, doing. Why? Because somewhere deep inside us, we've been programmed to believe that doing is living. That value comes from effort. That meaning comes from movement. But Taoism, one of the most profound and misunderstood philosophies in history, says the opposite: do nothing, and everything gets done. This isn't laziness. It's not passivity. It's something far more radical. It's the art of Wu Wei, the Taoist principle that true power comes not from force, but from flow. And once you understand it, your entire view of life, success, stress, and self-worth begins to collapse and then rebuild itself from silence.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound insights.
Let's start with the modern lie that you are only as valuable as what you produce. This idea is everywhere. It's in the way we treat time, the way we measure success, even in how we treat rest as a way to recover so we can get back to work. It's not real rest. It's scheduled exhaustion. But Taoism shatters this illusion. It says, the more you try to control the world, the more the world controls you. And so we chase, we push, we hustle. We think that by doing more we'll find peace. But what we're really doing is escaping ourselves. We are terrified of doing nothing, not because it's boring, but because it forces us to face the truth. We don't know who we are without the noise. And this is where the Taoist path begins, not in doing something different, but in being something real. Wu Wei doesn't mean do absolutely nothing. It means non-forcing. It means acting in harmony with the natural flow of reality, not against it. Think of water. It yields to everything, yet wears down mountains. It's soft, but unstoppable. It doesn't fight the rock, it flows around it. That's the Tao. And what if your life could be like that? What if instead of waking up anxious about what you haven't done, you woke up curious about what's already happening? What if you didn't need to manufacture progress, but simply align with it? Most people don't even consider this possibility because we've been raised to believe that effort is the only path to reward. But Taoism says, your effort is often the very thing preventing the reward from arriving. Let that sink in. So here's the first real question. What are you forcing right now in your life? Is it your career, your relationship, your identity, your future? What are you pushing that's pushing back? And what would happen if, just for a moment, you stopped? Not gave up, but let go. Let life reveal itself without your interference. Would you fall apart, or would you finally fall into something deeper? That's the leap Taoism invites you to take. And it begins by realizing that sometimes doing less isn't failure, it's wisdom. It's listening, it's trust, and maybe, just maybe, it's the most powerful thing you'll ever do. We have to understand this at the psychological level too. We believe that control equals safety. That if we can manage every variable, we won't get hurt. But the Tao says, control is an illusion. The more you cling, the more you suffer. Life is not a machine to be programmed. It's a river to be entered. And that's terrifying, because it means surrendering our favorite illusion that we're in charge. But here's the twist: when you stop forcing outcomes, the right ones often emerge. Why? Because you're finally aligned with what is, not what you wish was. You're not reacting from fear or ego. You're responding from presence. And in that presence, something incredible happens. You begin to see clearly. Let's make this practical. Have you ever been stuck in a problem, tried everything, analyzed it from every angle, and gotten nowhere until you finally gave up, walked away, and suddenly the answer came to you? That's Wu Wei. It's not magic. It's the mind returning to its natural clarity when you stop interfering. But most of us never get there because we're addicted to intervention. We think if we're not fixing something, we're failing. But what if the real failure is our refusal to let things breathe? To trust that some problems dissolve on their own when we stop feeding them with effort. Taoism doesn't teach passivity, it teaches precision. The exact amount of action at the exact right moment from the exact right place. And that's not something you do, it's something you allow. This is not just philosophy, it's a survival skill. Because the modern world is burning people out. We are overwhelmed with options, information, performance. And in our desperation to stay ahead, we've lost the ability to be still. We fear stillness. We call it laziness. But stillness is not the absence of action, it's the presence of alignment. It's where wisdom lives. It's where intuition speaks. And if you don't pause long enough to hear it, you'll spend your entire life chasing the wrong things, solving the wrong problems, becoming someone you're not, and calling it success. So ask yourself, when was the last time you did nothing not as a tactic, but as a truth? Not because you were tired, but because it was enough. And this takes courage. Because doing nothing goes against everything we've been taught. It feels wrong. It looks wrong. But maybe that's because we've been living upside down. Maybe the real question isn't what should I do next? But what happens if I don't? What if the path forward isn't effort, but emptiness? What if clarity is what shows up after you stop trying to control the fog? That's the Taoist secret. That's the paradox. That's the power of Wu Wei. It doesn't push. It waits. It listens. And when the time is right, it moves effortlessly, like water. The power of letting go, how non-doing unlocks your deepest potential. Let's begin with a truth we rarely say out loud. Most of us are exhausted not because we're doing too much, but because we're doing the wrong things. We're forcing, we're chasing, we're clinging, we're solving problems that aren't ours. We're trying to impress people who don't matter. And beneath all that effort is a deep, unspoken fear. If I stop, everything will fall apart. But Taoism has a different message. It says, if you stop, everything might fall into place. This is the radical power of letting go, not as a reaction, but as a way of being. Not as surrender to defeat, but as alignment with a deeper intelligence. And the more we study Wu Wei, the more we realize something shocking. The universe functions better without our constant interference. Think about breathing. Your body breathes without you. Your heart beats. Your cells regenerate. You don't control these things, they just happen. And yet they're perfect. Now ask yourself, what else in your life might unfold naturally if you simply stop trying to control it? Taoism teaches that the Tao, the way, is always flowing. It's not something you create. It's something you tune into, like a river current. You don't need to build the river. You just need to stop swimming upstream. But our culture worships struggle. It tells us that if we're not fighting, we're not achieving. So we spend years swimming against the current, trying to dominate life instead of dancing with it. And then we wonder why we're tired, lost, anxious, or empty. The Taoist master Zhuangzi once told a story about a man who was so skilled at swimming that he could dive into the most dangerous whirlpools and emerge unharmed. When asked how he survived, he said, "I follow the water. I do not resist it. I enter with the swirl and exit with the flow." This isn't just a parable about rivers, it's a parable about life. When you resist what is, you suffer. When you flow with it, you thrive. And that's not weakness. That's wisdom. But here's what most people get wrong. They think letting go means giving up. Taoism says no. Letting go means giving in not to defeat, but to the rhythm of reality. It's the difference between forcing a flower to bloom and giving it sunlight. Let's apply this to something real. Say you're stuck in a relationship that's filled with tension. You keep trying to fix it. You say the right things. You read the books, you go to therapy, but nothing changes. Taoism would ask you, are you acting from fear or from flow? Are you trying to control the other person, or are you listening to the deeper current underneath the conflict? Because sometimes doing less in a relationship, less talking, less fixing, less proving creates the space for something real to emerge. Sometimes silence says more than explanation. Sometimes absence reveals the truth that presence hides. And that's the Taoist paradox. When you stop pushing, the truth begins to rise. This principle applies everywhere. In creativity, in business, even in healing. How many times have you tried to figure out your purpose only to feel more lost? How many times have you tried to fix your anxiety only to make it worse? Taoism suggests something radically different. Stop. Wait, watch. Let the answer come to you. Just like a muddy pond clears when left undisturbed, your mind clears when you stop stirring it. But we don't trust that. We think silence is stagnation. We think rest is regression. But what if the silence is where the real answer lies? What if the rest is where your next evolution begins? That's not laziness. That's alignment. That's Wu Wei in action, not acting from pressure, but from presence. And this is where Taoism gets beautifully practical. It doesn't ask you to change the world. It asks you to change your relationship to it, to stop trying to dominate reality and instead cooperate with it. That's when synchronicity happens. That's when you meet the right people without effort. That's when you have the right insight without force. That's when life begins to feel orchestrated, not orchestrated by you, but by something deeper than your ego. And this is not mystical, it's observable. The moments in your life when things have felt effortless, graceful, meant to be, those are glimpses of the Tao. You didn't make them happen. You allowed them to happen. But here's the hardest part. Trusting the Tao means giving up control. And that's terrifying, because control gives us the illusion of safety. But what it really gives us is tension. The Tao says you were never in control to begin with. You were simply stressing yourself by pretending you were. And this is the silent tragedy of modern life. We think our suffering comes from failure, but often it comes from over-effort. From refusing to let life do what it already knows how to do. So the question becomes, what are you willing to stop controlling today? What would happen if you loosened your grip, even slightly? Would the world collapse, or where would it finally breathe? Letting go is not a one-time act. It's a daily decision, a spiritual practice, a return to trust. And the more you do it, the more you see that life wants to help you. That things fall into place when you stop getting in the way. That nature doesn't need micromanagement, just space. And you are part of nature. Your healing, your growth, your purpose, they don't need to be manufactured. They need to be remembered, realigned, reawakened. And that happens not through more thought, but through less interference, through listening, through silence, through non-doing. And then suddenly you realize you're not doing nothing, you're doing the most powerful thing possible. You're getting out of the way. And you begin to notice something. Your life feels lighter, or your decisions feel clearer. Your relationships feel deeper. Not because you added more, but because you removed the noise. That's the Taoist secret. Not more action, not more effort, but more emptiness. Because in that emptiness, the Tao flows. And when the Tao flows, everything changes. When you stop chasing, life arrives, the final lesson of effortless power. There's a turning point in every journey when the seeker realizes that what they've been chasing was never outside them. That's the Taoist revelation. What you search for begins to appear the moment you stop searching. And that's not poetic fluff, it's a principle of reality. When you chase something, you reinforce the idea that you don't have it, and that you're separate from it, that you need to struggle to earn it. But the Tao doesn't work through struggle. It works through alignment. When you stop chasing, you stop resisting. And when resistance ends, the natural rhythm of life can finally reach you. What you were running toward has been running to you the whole time. Think about how this plays out in real life. Ever notice how love often finds you when you're not looking? How the best ideas come after you stop trying to have them? How peace shows up after you stop trying to fix yourself? That's not coincidence. That's the Tao. It's not that effort is wrong. It's that forced effort blocks the very flow you're trying to tap into. The Tao doesn't want you to stop living. It wants you to stop interfering, to stop forcing life into a shape it doesn't want to take. And when you do that, things don't fall apart, they fall into place. The final lesson is this: effortless power is not about doing nothing, it's about doing only what's necessary. No more, no less. It's the elegance of a cat landing on its feet, the grace of a tree bending in the wind, the genius of nature acting without stress. You have this power, not in your ego, not in your plans, but in your presence. When you stop trying to control the moment, you become available to it. And in that availability, you become powerful not in the way the world defines power, but in the way the Tao does, calm, clear, unshakable. So ask yourself right now, what have I been chasing that I could simply allow? What would happen if I stopped trying to make life happen and started listening to how it's already unfolding? That's not giving up, it's waking up. And maybe that's the real secret. Not that doing nothing changes everything, but that being nothing, no roles, no tension, no resistance reveals everything.